Hi guys, welcome to Memo's Tutorials. Today we're looking at average gradient. How to calculate average gradient of a function. On our first example here, we're having our function of f here, and the question have asked us to calculate the gradient between x is equal to a, which is this portion, and also x is equal to b, which is that portion. So when they ask you to calculate gradient in that way, they are simply asking you to calculate the gradient of line AB. I'm sure you can see I've joined AB there. They simply want you to calculate the gradient of line AB. And how do you calculate gradient? We say M is equal to increase in Y over increase in X, right? We say Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. That's the formula for calculating gradient. But then if you are given the x values like that, you are given the x values as a and the other one as b. So for you to be able to find your y values, you will have to inject these a values into your function. In this case, our function is just f, right? So applying this on an actual function, where our function in this case, they are saying f of x is equal to x squared minus 4. Applying what we have just said, and we are told to calculate the gradient from x is equal to minus 1 and x is equal to 3. From x is equal to minus 1 and from x is equal to 3. So the first step, what we do, we find the values of x. To say when x is minus 1, what will be my value for y? So I will say y is equal to, in place of x, I'm just going to put minus 1. Minus 1 squared minus 4. Minus 1 squared is a positive 1. 1 minus 4, I'll get a negative 3. So meaning my first set of coordinates, I'm going to have minus 1, minus 3. When x is minus 1, my value for y is a minus 3, right? And then for the second one, when x is 3, what is the value for y? I will say 3 squared minus 4. Y is equal to 3 squared minus 4, which is a 9 minus 4, which will give me what? A 5. So in other terms, I'm having point when x is a 3, y is a 5. So with those 2 points now, I can now inject them into my formula there for calculating gradient, and then we can find our gradient, right? Our board is very small. I'll have to erase, and then we calculate our gradient there. I hope you guys are mastering the concept. You first, with your given values of x, you inject them in your f of x to get the y values. After that, you use your formula for calculating gradient to find your y values, okay? We have calculated our y values. Now we want to calculate the gradient using our formula. We said you can choose. We have two groups here. We can say this is x1, y1, x2, y2, right? So now our y2 is 5. So we say 5 minus 3, minus for the formula and minus 3 for that y value there, over 3 minus 1. Take note, if you say this is my x1, automatically this one must be your y1. If that's your x2, automatically that one should be your y2, right? So 5 minus 3 is going to be 8, because a negative and a negative will be positive, over 3 minus 1, it's going to be a plus. So it's going to be 3 plus 1, which is a 4. So our final gradient for this question, it's a 2, right? That's our average gradient there, between x minus 1 and 3, okay? So now, our next question, they said find the average rate of change. So the gradient, they can actually ask it as the average rate of change, right? So when you hear average rate of change, just know that they are asking for the gradient. So on our next question here, we are having, they said g of x is actually equal to a negative x to the power 3. And they said find the average rate of change over the interval minus 1, 4, right? Those are the x values, right? Over the interval minus 1, 4 is the interval. Let me put these brackets to show that it's the interval. So what are we going to do? Let's inject minus 1 into our f of x to see what's the value for y. So y is equal to minus 1 minus for the formula, and minus 1 to the power 3, like that. I will get minus 1 to the power, that's a negative 1, times a minus, I'll get a positive 1, right? And then this side, it's going to be y is equal to minus, and then a 4 to the power 3. 4 to the power 3, it's a 64, so it's going to be negative 64. So with this being said, when x is minus 1, y is 1. When x is 4, y is a minus 64. Now, what is the average rate of change? They want the gradient, right? So my gradient, I'm going to say, I'll give these one names: x1, y1, x2, y2, right? Don't worry about that. x1, y1, x2, y2. Now I can say it's negative 64 minus 1 over a 4 minus 1. Negative 64 minus 1, I'm getting a negative 65 over 4 minus 1, that's a positive 5. And 5 can get into 65. 5 into 6 is 1, remainder 1. Into 15 it's a 3. So our gradient for this one is a negative 13, right? I hope you guys were following. Our gradient for this one is a negative 13. On our next lesson, we are going to be looking at the general formula for the gradient that we are going to apply for our differentiation from the first principles.